Hey everybody, thank y'all for being here. We're joined by Louky today. Louky and I were having a conversation a while back because she joined us for Speed Critique, which is a program we do with the cohort. The cohort members often ask me how to price their work, and I have to kind of shrug. And I have some ways, but not a lot of concrete advice to give them. But luckily, Louky has had a career in it, so she's going to talk about it and talk about how it's kind of hard to actually give concrete ways to do it and how it changes. And I'm going to let her introduce herself partially, but Louky, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Well, hi, I'm Louky Keijsers Koning, and I don't know if you read my bio, but I will just tip on the important parts for here. So I am an art historian, but also I used to run my own gallery where I did a lot of like pricing. Oh, I have to put it up. Oh, sorry. So, you know, where I price the artwork in collaboration with the artist. And then now I'm in, besides running an artist estate, where I'm partly dealing with pricing as well, but then in collaboration with the galleries we work with, I'm also an appraiser. However, there in that capacity, I do not price any works. I actually value works, which is a slight different. Pricing is much more like us positioning, and valuing is much more like what is it worth. So we will be talking today on the first part on how to price it, and it was always one of my favorite things to do when I had the gallery, to see and look at the works. But I think that it's also one of the most difficult parts of having, looking at your work, because you will later on, I do give you some formulas, but I will also give my opinion about those formulas, why I think it works or not. And if anybody wants this slideshow afterwards, or just ask me, and I can send it to you, or Cedars Union can provide it to you, because it has those formulas listed, and you may want to look back on that. Another kind of issue is that the art market is not transparent. I personally always enjoy that weird part of it. It's a lot of gentleman agreements, and you need to know the ins and the outs. And the disadvantage, obviously, is like that pricing is always a little bit hidden. We won't talk about it. Galleries don't show prices. And so that makes it more harder. And then I think the third part that you face when you are trying to price your work is that it is, it's your work. So you are very personal, involved with it, and that sometimes maybe make you less objective in setting prices. And so I will tap on all those things during this talk, and afterwards I would say, feel free to ask any questions you may have, because I think you will learn a lot about when we have a conversation and exchange experience, what you may have or whatever you would like to share, and I hopefully can guide you a little bit further. I'm following kind of the slide presentation, because otherwise I'm going to talk all over the place. So we keep a little bit in structure here, and so as I mentioned already, it is difficult because there's no formula, but there's also no perfect system in what we deal with that we have. The one thing that I think, and it will come back, is when you price your work, you have to be very consistent. So, for example, you know, you have two types of works that are 20 by 30 inches. And one of those work is really your favorite. And it sounds maybe silly, but I do get a lot to hear, like when I talk with artists, like, oh, how shall we price this? What do you think? Oh, that one I love. That one is better than that one. So, but I'm like, look at them, they're both the same size. No. And it took me more time and this. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you know, somebody that will be looking at it actually might the work that you don't like as much more. So if there is a price difference, then they're going to ask, well, why is the price difference? It's the same size. Oh, maybe it's not the right work. So just don't fill in for other and try to remove your emotions from it. Like, you know, if a work is 20 by 30 and another one too, same medium, use the same price. And I know that comes up because even when, and that is a little bit tricky, but sometimes, and actually my first image is actually a good example of that. This artist, Jeff Grant, this is, you don't see it really well, but it is all created with pencil. And he sometimes makes a work that has just only, you know, this part. And I still price it the same if it is the same size as it is here. Because for a collector, it's sometimes hard to see if in drawing, it doesn't really matter if the image is completely full or that there is just something on, the size matters more. So that is sometimes a little bit tricky that you have to look at. Like maybe if something is, you know, completely filled, you might want to say like, oh, I do it. But technically I would say price same size, the same size works of the same size, the same price. And this is also a good example because he also makes work that is not as elaborate, or it does quicker, but maybe fill the whole page. This is very labor intensive. You still price it the same. So, and I know there is, we will get into that later, there is a formula that does work with that, but it has issues, and I will point that out. So before we actually go into the formulas, I think that what is really important for you is, where would you like to sell your work? It's like, is that through galleries? Do you want to do it yourself? Or would you like more to sell through Etsy or Saatchi? Like, you know, you have those sites where you can help sell work. That sometimes determines also a little bit the price what you do. Like when you go on Etsy, you may price your work, and I'm a little bit hesitant in saying this, you may price it lower or Saatchi lower, but then when you work in a gallery in a more like really contemporary like market field, you may want to price it higher. However, if you operate in both, you have to make sure that you are consistent with your prices. Because if you make your prices like in a gallery higher than before, but somebody can get it on Etsy, people start to lose trust because they feel like, wait a minute, why would I go buy to the gallery? And then galleries may not want to work with you and promote you further because you're selling it, somewhere else for cheaper. So you have to make sure that you be consistent and that it is like figure out where you would like to sell. And I always say you can start low and always go up, but going down with prices is not recommendable for your own developing of your own market as well. And that developing of your own market and positioning yourself, you can do that wherever you at, like, or whatever your ambition is. You have to, you don't have to obviously, but it might be wise to think about it. I maybe say like things of must or have but obviously you're free to do whatever you want. There is, and there might be slightly, contradicting. I made here like a little bit for you, like some terms that I would like you to look at and to think of when you start pricing your work. So first of all, it's your materials. Like if you work in bronze versus paper, there is already a difference that the materials is just more expensive, and you should take that in consideration. Then time, but time is always, as I tried to say earlier, a little bit a tricky component because some works take really long to complete. And okay, this is most what you maybe not going to like, but I think working on an hourly hour or having an hourly hour as an artist, in particular when you start setting it up, may not be as fruitful. Like if you think like, oh, I spent X amount of hours and it took me forever to create, but that might not be reflected initially in your price. So I always say it's a little bit a sour note, but when you get successful, you can build up. And then, so the market research and positioning is kind of the same as well as the career stage. So I think what for yourself is very good to look at like, where I am in my career, who are the other people that are similar. Like, you can look at other artists that are well known, but that is obviously not of a comparable sale to what you do. There is one thing that I know that is in New York, and I'm not sure if that is in Texas as well, but there is a consumers protection law in New York State where when galleries kind of sell artwork, or what they do, they should actually provide you with prices, which I think 95% of the galleries don't show prices, but by law, they have to provide it to you. So you can walk in and say, oh, what is the price of this work? But make for yourself also, if you go into a Gagosian, that might be not relevant to you, but other galleries might be relevant to you, and see what the pricing is. Or look at, for example, as I mentioned earlier, sites of Etsy or Saatchi is a website. There is also, now I forgot the name, Cheris or something like that. There's a website where they help you sell artwork, but then also you can see like, oh, hey, wait a minute, maybe that's kind of similar career, or like what do they do for prices? Maybe I can have a look as well. And maybe also make sure like that if you don't compare a sculpture with a painting. I mean, it seems logic, but I think that is important to note as well. And again, I think that you always have to be consistent. I mean, I'm going to say that a couple of times during this talk, but you know, consistency is really key also for you know, winning trust with your audience. I also think that that is another important part when that you have to think of who will be my audience, to whom will I sell, the same way as you like, where would I like to sell, to whom I would like to sell. And that, you know, that also make a difference sometimes in how you price your work. And then I also would like to point out, which I think people, and it goes back to consistency as well, sometimes, you know, tell me like, oh, Louky, we're here in America, so I price it this, but if I go to Europe, I will price it a little bit lower because it's Europe. It's cheaper there. And that is something I would definitely recommend not to do. Like geographically, it doesn't matter where you sell, but you keep it, again, consistent. I think that is the key word for tonight. But the same thing is also when you work with a gallery, and a gallery often takes 50%, and I know that sounds quite a bit, but I can, later on, I'm happy to defend why it is fair, in a way, being there, from having to have a gallery or had a gallery. But it is not good for yourself, and again, it is with consistency. Say if you work with a gallery, you price the work at $3,000 through the gallery, and then often at your studio, you're like, well, I can sell it for $1,500 and sell it underneath. A gallery would not enjoy it because you become a competitor while you actually should be a team. Obviously, you can do sometimes like friends and family, but I will always do that in a conversation with the gallery, so that you have like, maybe you have like, okay, if it is friends or family, I give a larger discount than I normally would do. But again, like, try to be consistent with your pricing, and don't create like studio prices if you work with a gallery. And now we come to the formulas, which we had discussed. And so I'm going over that with you guys, and you will see that I have some issues with some of them. And for the people that come in later, like, you don't have to make a picture. If you want, I can share it with you. So, I mean, but feel free to take pictures as well. So the first one we have, which I addressed already a little bit, is where you look at the hours you spend and the cost. So an issue with this one is when you multiply things with when you create an hourly rate and materials, the issue with that one is that you don't look per se at what the market is and what the market is doing and how you position, because where is that based on? You know, you just, also another issue is like, and you will see that I found difficult with most of the formulas they give, and these are existing formulas that people use, and to me, I would use them way much more as a guideline, maybe as a basic from like, okay, I pick one formula that I feel comfortable with, and then I go to look like, hey, what does the market do? What does my peers do? and base then like, oh, maybe that works for me, or I should maybe put it a little bit higher. And then when you have that baseline for yourself, then I would work according to size. And then another thing is, if you have finally that baseline, you can do it according to size and then according to materials. Like if you work in sculpture, have the sculptures the same. If they vastly different in expenses, you have to calculate that as well. And so I apologize because I went a little bit through the formulas, but the second formula is like what they gave you is it's height of the work and the width times the rate. And I wrote it down because the rate, so to me it's then like, so, and you see it with the third one as well, you have the multiplier, and then I quickly go to the next one, and index. Now, my issue with those ones are like, how do I determine the rate, either the multiplier or the index? So, you know, what does it help me actually to come to this? But, you know, to give me that difference, because more like, how do I determine either my rate or my multiplier or the index? And so what they gave me as an answer is, so the rate, the problem with all the answers is that they have already established a value. So they gave an example for 24 by 30 inches is 720 square inches. A price is 3,600. So your rate, you do that by 3,600 divided by 720. But how did you come up with the 3,600? So, you know, that is a random thing. So that is the issue with the formulas, that it actually is based on something already that you have established. So and that's what I said earlier, so what I do think is what you should do is really try indeed to establish, and then you can apply the formulas to be consistent. So it is a little bit unfortunate because we might feel like that we are back to, you know, one, like, because how do we price the artwork? And I personally really believe strongly to either talk really with, you know, peers, what they doing. I mean, and it's sometimes hard because like, hey, how are you pricing it? But don't avoid it, and don't wait till somebody asks you like, oh, I actually would love to buy the work, and then you're like, oh, what do I do now? When you price some work and you see difference, like, you know, you see works hanging in a cafe, and it's often in the 100 range, and you know, it's 500, and there it is like that. Sometimes like, oh my God, I worked so long on it, and then I'm only making 500. But on the other hand, if somebody likes it, and you see that somebody likes it, and and you get to sell it, like, you know, then you can think like, wait a minute, 500 seems to be a great number. Maybe I can push it up. Let's try 550. Oh, people still interested. Oh, let's make it higher. Like, and I think that is a good way, like sometimes to figure it out. In that sense, I would also like you to warn for like, and that's often what I got in the gallery. Again, like positioning where you want to sell, like, you know, if you sell it like in kind of cultural center, like, or a cafe, it might be lower than when you're in a gallery, but eventually you have to even that out, that it is all the same. But so in the gallery, I experience often like, and I love the example, like, so we had prize works of an artist who was kind of getting out there, and I think the work was, say 20 by 20 inches, and it was all made out of film strips. So we priced it at, for example, $2,000, and it went bananas. People want it. So I went up within a year. We went up till 4,000, 5,000. I mean, look at the percentages. That's a really steep increase. Then I have a talk with the artist, and the artist tells me, like, Louky, we have to go up till 7. And I'm like, till 7? Yeah, because I'm talking to friends, and you know, some of her friends are like bigger artists, and they say like, well, that it is so cheap. And I said like, well, I have not seen those friends buying your work, so I don't know what cheap that means. Like, so, but I also felt like going up that quickly in a span of maybe 2 years from 2,000 till 7,000 is a jump that I can't. Of course, I want to have it sell for 7,000 because that makes my life easier too. But you know, if that makes like that nobody wants to buy it, and one of the reasons why I was worried about it was that it was a type of work that people bought one piece, and I would not get any person coming back to me, to the gallery, to buy a second piece. So it meant that I had a limited audience because I can only send it once to all of you here, and then you won't come back. So, so to up it, you know, this wasn't kind of an easy step in price. And we stopped working together because she disagreed. But I felt very comfortable, and I think, you know, that is sometimes what you have to see with what I say, and you know, the examples that I give are more extreme so that you can easily understand, but you know, you're not comparing yourself like with what is it, the Basquiat. I mean, this is very extreme, but you know, you have to find your peer group where you can do the pricings with. If you see and feel like, hey, I can ask more, just do it, but do it gradually. You know, because sometimes that $100 more makes that difference of buying or not buying, and you do want the artwork to get out in the world. You do want people have, you know, it hanging in the house as such. So this is a special thing that I wanted to address, which are editions, and I'm not sure if people work in editions, but if you work maybe in print or photography, I wanted to highlight that there you have a little bit in the luck, because depending on the edition, but if you have a standard edition of 5 with photography, it often goes up. The price goes up within the edition itself. And so you kind of can test, and then you have sold one and like, okay, let's do a little bit higher, and let's do a little bit higher. It's, again, as I said from the beginning, there is, you know, these kind of are all gentlemen rules, no written agreements. So there is no per se rhyme or reason within the editions, or like how much higher do you do the increments. but and sometimes, like for example, for the estate, for the artist that I work for, we have photographs that are in an edition of 10, and the first 5 remain the same price, and then 6, 7 we go up, and that is what pricing is. As I said earlier, it's about positioning, but also strategically thinking about it. Like, so for me, when I reach a certain edition number, tell the galleries they can't sell it anymore unless other works are selling more, so that I have a wider base that is sold. And because as an estate, it's similar as an artist, I need to live for my sales. And then I'm in the luck that this artist is not by a lot of people, but it is more known, and institutions like her work to purchase. So have like, okay, last editions, if none of that has gone to museums, it's reserved for museums. So those are tricks to manipulate your own market. Like, and that's what I meant, like that it's very good for you to think of like who I am, what I'm doing, how do I position, what are my peers to determine the price, but also like how to grow and how can I, become more successful in that, and in the pricing as well. So I wanted to close with a little bit of like mentioning, as I said, like again, consistency, avoid to be inconsistent. Like, it's very important that you price it all over. I can't say that enough. Also, pricing too high, and I have to admit, like, I'm in the art world and I do, but I'm always utterly stunned how high the prices are in the gallery. Like, and then I'm sometimes like, what is the yearly salary of the average American compared to the price that I see here? Like, does not really make sense to me, and I'm in that world. I think just be like honest to yourself and get a reasonable amount, like, and then eventually you can strive to those big numbers, but don't start crazy, because things can go down, and lowering prices, it's the worst. Like, I mean, I was in the art world like when in 2005 and 2007, like, people were crazy. The art world was really fun because people were just buying, like, and then the financial crisis happened, 2008, and of a sudden, and it has really severe effect, like, on art, and still nowadays you feel it, because people were just buying emerging artists, but a lot of the people, galleries started because they were in so panic, because it was a collapse. The housing markets collapsed, the art market collapsed as well, and they start selling for really low, like discount, like more than 50%. Like, I had collectors walking in and they would ask me like, are you going to give 50% discount? I'm like, no. And because I felt still comfortable and hold it up, but unfortunately a lot of those names that were big at the time, they lost their careers because it became so like rapid overnight, and the public lost trust. And that is like, I think one of the important thing is for yourself, because you are your own company, that you keep trust to your customers. I mean, collectors is nicer, but it's technically what it is. So So this is a little bit what I want to say over pricing. I know I went very quickly over the formulas, but I really think, and this is nice of the group that you have here, is, you know, and that you can talk with each other, and do make that exchange of like, oh, I have this. What do you think? Like, you know, I think that is the most important part, actually. And I'm very sorry that I could not give you one good formula. But, you know, so I have my last slide, which has my website, which is not completely yet in function, but you can go and find my information. Yeah, you're welcome.